So this new book is one that began, at least I started thinking about it, after the episode of the financial meltdown in 2008. Because it intrigued me. I mean, when we think of our great country and we wonder, how could we possibly ever have imagined that we could exist primarily on debt and speculation? It's intriguing because, one can see it as a moral issue, but one might also want to have to look at it more precisely as perhaps a neuropsychiatric behavioral issue. And so I began to wonder whether you could dissect out from that particular debacle something that might make sense, that would take us out of the moral realm and put us in a more constructive realm about how we might see this into the future and avoid it. Of course, it doesn't look as if we have, as we run up to another bubble, it seems to me, with the quantitative easing and so on and so forth. But it was a worthy cause, and it allowed me to bring all my interests of history and economics and a few other bits and pieces together to find out, in my own mind, why it is that we don't do better. I mean, we have such material success, but somehow it doesn't quite work in terms of human progress. One of the things that strikes me is that in my lifetime, the population of the world has increased, it's doubled actually. But the economic output has increased by 8-fold in the same 50, 60 years. That is extraordinarily striking. So one wonders, given that we as a nation are only 4% of the population of the world, but we consume in the traded resources something like 25%, one wonders why it is that we're not doing better than we are. Because yes, of course we're rich, but if you look at the statistics, we're, in terms of our social parameters and other things, we're sort of in the middle of the pack. One wonders, how could that be? Is there some strange correlation here between what we do and the fact that we have certain personal health problems and we worry about the environment objectively, I think, et cetera, et cetera. So in that 50 years, if you look at the world at large, there's no doubt that our health and our wealth have improved enormously. Most of the children that we bear these days in the world grow to maturity. We are literate in general. We're very successful. And yet then when you look at the US, we have many scourges which plague us. One of which is, for example, that we have a great deal of obesity. We actually are one of the fattest countries in the world. Over 50% of people are now obese, especially males, white males. So I think that we have to ask ourselves questions about how did this come about? I don't think it need be, and so in this analysis, which I'll talk a little bit about tonight, what I'd like to present to you is the idea that it doesn't need to be. We can actually do things differently and have something which, if we look forward into the future, we would be able to avoid many of the pitfalls that we've found.